I sat silently in a corner of the dining table, holding a bowl of hot soup in my hands, outwardly calm. I felt profoundly detached inside. They chatted animatedly, switching topics back and forth, yet there was never a place for me. Their laughter and lively conversation felt like an invisible wall, shutting me out. They even deliberately switched to French in front of me, discussing and toasting Ashley and Ethan, asking when they would hold their wedding. It was as if I, the actual girlfriend, didn't exist at all. In that moment, I realized deeply that language is not always a bridge for communication. It can also be a tool for exclusion. I stole a glance at Ethan. He wore a polite smile, as if none of this concerned him. Faced with those subtly malicious questions, he neither explained nor defended me. He just sat there quietly, letting those words hang in the air. How I wished he would reach out and pull me in, sparing me the embarrassment, but he didn't, truth be told. I had put in a lot of effort to keep up with them. While others rested, I taught myself French, Spanish, German, and Japanese, afraid I might miss a word or fail to respond. But being among them, I realized no matter how many languages I learned or how hard I tried, I could never fit into their circle. They were doctors and professors, some with years of overseas experience, and in their eyes, someone like me, a mere college graduate, hardly commanded respect. Their silent disdain was palpable. The harder I tried to prove myself, the more out of place I felt. At that moment, an overwhelming sense of loneliness hit me. Though I sat beside them, it felt as if I were the only one in the room. Honestly, the long-term pressure and self-doubt were nearly suffocating. Excusing myself to the restroom, I stepped out of the restaurant with my phone and called my brother. Before he could even speak, I blurted out, "Bro, I agree to the family's arrangement. I'm willing to go on the blind date." After saying goodbye to my brother, I immediately packed my bags, booked the fastest flight, and flew back to the capital overnight. By the time the plane landed, it was already 2 a.m., and the city was silent. When I got home, Ethan hadn't returned yet. The room was pitch black. With only the glow of my phone screen illuminating the darkness, a news notification suddenly popped up with the headline, "Renowned entrepreneur Richard passes away, half of his estate to be donated to charity." The comments section was filled with netizens mourning his loss, everyone praising his kindness and generosity. Staring at the screen, my heart felt as if it had been struck. The memory of the last time I saw my father flashed before my eyes like a scene from a movie. I had rushed to the hospital, but I was still too late. By the hospital bed, my brother James stood there, his eyes filled with sorrow and guilt. He whispered to me, "Dad's heart has always been weak, all these years. He carried everything on his own, never wanting to trouble anyone. You know, what weighed on him most was you." I pressed my lips together, tears threatening to fall. My brother continued, "Dad regretted it deeply, not being able to see you settle down and build a life, not being able to hold you one last time. He always believed you were the most talented in the family. It's a shame you chose to leave back then. Now, you're the only one who can shoulder the family's responsibilities." His voice choked up. "Scarlett, please think about it again. My father had two wishes that have always stayed deep in my heart. One was for me to become the pillar of the Jiang family, and the other was for me to settle down and have a family of my own. But reality has never gone as smoothly as I hoped." I tried to talk to Ethan, hoping he would accompany me back to see my father one last time, to let the old man pass peacefully, but he impatiently threw on his coat without even glancing at me. "Scarlett, there's a limit to being unreasonable." He shook off my hand and slammed the door hard. His excuse was that Ashley was drunk and needed his care, and he claimed the roads were icy and unsafe for a woman alone. He kept insisting they were just friends, but deep down, I knew, she always had Ryan by her side. She didn't need him at all. Late at night, in the quiet, I scrolled through my phone and accidentally came across Ryan's social media post. He had written, "No matter how many years pass, the kind of love that makes you rush forward is truly enviable." Below it were countless likes and comments. Staring at the screen, I suddenly realized I could no longer deceive myself. All my confidence, persistence, and dignity shattered like bubbles. Finally, I made up my mind, booked a flight home and silently began packing my belongings. The sound of a key turning came from the door. Ethan walked in, wearing his black coat, his expression as calm as ever. He seemed surprised to see me still awake. "Why aren't you asleep?" he asked. I brushed it off, just clearing out some extra things to send back. He didn't press further, only nodding faintly. "It's late. Get some rest." That night, I was unusually quiet, even feeling somewhat unfamiliar to myself. Ethan seemed to notice something, slightly furrowing his brows. Suddenly, a phone ringtone shattered the silence in the room. Ashley was on the other end of the line, crying so hard she could barely catch her breath, choking out, "Anyan, can you come keep me company? I really can't hold on anymore." Ethan immediately softened, patiently comforting her. "Just lie down quietly now. I'm always here. Don't be afraid." His voice carried a tenderness I'd never heard before as he explained. "Ashley has depression and is drunk. I need to go check on her. You know very well, when depression hits, someone must be by their side, otherwise something bad might happen." I nodded lightly, interrupting him before he could finish. "I understand." Ethan paused for a moment, almost instinctively pulling down his sleeve to hide the scars on his wrist. Of course, how could I not understand? When he was at his sickest, it was me who stayed by his side, pulling him bit by bit out of the darkness. "Didn't you say last time you wanted me to accompany you back home? Once this busy period is over, I should be able to make time." Ethan looked at my quiet self at this moment, feeling inexplicably uneasy. "And also, I plan to formally introduce you in front of my friends." I nodded. In fact, I had always been waiting for him to make it official. But when this day finally arrived, it happened to be just as I was about to walk away. All these years of hesitation deserve a proper conclusion. Let this be the final punctuation mark to our story. "Scarlett, why are you dressed like this? Is there something inappropriate about how I'm dressed?" I asked calmly in return. "No. That dress suits you very well." Ethan felt somewhat dazed. All along, what I wore in front of them had been black, white, and grey, simple and elegant, poised yet refined. He thought this was very proper and suited me well. But today, I put on a goose yellow cheongsam and casually pinned up my hair into a bun with a white jade hairpin. Truth be told, I've always loved bright and vibrant colors. Perhaps it's because I stayed with Ashley all night and didn't come home until this morning. A trace of guilt flashed in Ethan's eyes. "You look really good in this color. Let's buy a few more pieces later." I responded casually, my tone indifferent. For some reason, Ethan felt like something had changed today. The air carried a heavy silence. Ashley and her friends were already waiting outside the private room. When they saw Ethan arrive, everyone started chatting warmly, whether it was academic topics, emotional gossip, or little memories shared by Ethan and Ashley. No subject was off limits. "Ethan has waited for you all these years. You know, back then the two of you were the perfect couple in our eyes." Ryan could not help but laugh and tease. "You and Ethan were truly the golden couple." Anyan actually already had a girlfriend. In the end, I was still too late. It's not too late at all. Everyone knows Ethan's heart has always belonged to you. That guy by Yiru's side is just a poser, totally unworthy of the spotlight. "Ryan, that's a bit harsh," someone nearby reminded him. "Isn't that right? Everyone knows that back then, Ethan's favorite was Ashley. If it weren't for Scarlett taking advantage of the situation, they would have reconciled long ago. Ethan has never been able to let go of Ashley these years. Scarlett is just a substitute. Later, take a look. Isn't he Scarlett copying Ashley? Whether it's clothing style or hobbies, she imitates everything. Like the ugly woman imitating the beauty's frown. How could it ever catch the eye? The moment I stepped into the room, everyone's voices abruptly stopped. The girl standing at the door, gentle and composed yet radiating brightness and confidence, was nothing like the copycat everyone had imagined. For a moment, the atmosphere turned slightly awkward, but I greeted everyone with ease. Someone whispered under their breath, "That might not really be the case." Ashley saw Ethan and walked up with a smile. "Anyan, congratulations. You took first place again this time. Would you like to introduce your work to everyone?" She unconsciously ignored me. Only chatting warmly with Ethan and the others, Ethan began to talk about the inspiration behind his artwork, sharing his experiences over the years. Ashley always managed to keep the conversation flowing, The two of them laughed together, matching each other's pace perfectly. Their chemistry was undeniable. Like a harmonious duet. Who could say they were not made for each other? Suddenly, Ryan blurted out in French, "When are you two getting married?" Everyone in the room immediately looked at me, and, as if by agreement, the conversation switched to French. Ashley responded to their blessings with a smile, also in French. I turned to look at Ethan. He neither denied it nor offered any explanation. I sighed inwardly and quietly left my seat. Ryan's glance at me carried a hint of disdain, probably thinking that someone like me, with just a junior college degree, could never understand what they were saying. Little did they know that. All these years, I had secretly studied 4 languages just to fit into Ethan's world. Those simple conversations were nothing for me. Listening to the laughter from the room, I stepped outside and dialed my phone. "Brother, I've decided to go back and take over everything Dad left behind. Scarlett. I'm so glad you're coming home. Mom and I have been hoping for this. You've always been Dad's pride. No matter what, we just want you to be happy." James's voice was full of relief on the other end. His little sister had finally come around. He could breathe easier now. "But I'll need another month to wrap things up here. Is your boyfriend coming back with you?" He picked up on something in my tone and asked again. The mention of Ethan made me pause. "Brother, I'm planning to break up with him. Dad's business. I promise I'll carry it forward. I won't let it end with us." James sighed. "Scarlett, after all this time. He still wouldn't come home with you. He didn't even show up when you went to say goodbye to Dad. A man like that. Don't waste your feelings. I'll help you find someone better in the future. If you're ever hurt, just come home. Your family will always be your safe harbor. Thank you, brother." I fought back tears. No matter what happened, home would always be my refuge. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed my empty seat and suddenly felt an unexplainable panic. What was going on with Scarlett? Ever since she'd come back from that last visit home, she was no longer clingy or demanding. Her newfound quietness and maturity tugged at his heart, but it made him more uneasy than her old dependence ever had. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became, and he kept drinking glass after glass. When I returned to the room, I found Ethan already drunk, staggering as he moved. I wanted to help him, but he pushed me away. "I don't want to go home. Ashley, why did you leave?" "Ashley, don't leave me." Everyone looked awkward, pretending not to notice. Ethan looked like an abandoned puppy, his eyes shining with tears. The atmosphere was unbearably tense. People quietly turned away. Ashley's gaze at me was filled with pride and a sense of superiority. Outwardly, she put on a show of helplessness and apology. "Scarlett, I'm sorry. Anyan's like this right now. Then I'll leave Ethan to your care," I replied graciously, entrusting him to her. "Scarlett. Are you even a woman?" Ryan grumbled, upset by how calmly I walked away. I just smiled. "Isn't that what good friends are for?" I glanced at Ethan, still clinging to Ashley, then turned and left without hesitation. Back home, I started packing my things. Every trace of Ethan and me was swiftly cleared away. After hesitating for a moment, I opened the door to my studio. The room was a mess, filled with all the sketches I'd done. Countless silhouettes, piled up everywhere. I sighed and sat down in front of the easel, taking out those already yellowed sketch papers one by one. That rough sketch was something I drew the day I first met Ethan. When I was leaving, it accidentally fell to the floor. Later, he picked it up and took it home, and it became a source of inspiration for him. Now, with one final stroke, I added color to that long unfinished drawing. Ethan did not come home at all that night. I did not call him again. Instead, I went to the studio alone. "Scarlett, are you really leaving us?" My colleagues surrounded me, all reluctant to let me go. I had built this design studio from the ground up, and just as things were finally looking up, I was about to leave it behind. "You can all handle things on your own now. Don't let any of the stuff I'm leaving go to waste." "You heartless girl." Just leaving like this. Emma, though scolding me, could not hide the pain in her eyes. She knew better than anyone how much I had given for this relationship. When the once famous genius artist Ethan got caught up in a plagiarism scandal and lost his soulmate, it was me who stayed by his side and helped him out of the darkness. When Ethan fell into depression, I never left him, always sticking by him and making sure he was safe. outside of work. I would run back and forth just to have meals with him, afraid he might do something foolish and hurt himself. To clear Ethan's name, I worked tirelessly to uncover the truth, giving both my time and money. I even paved one path after another for him. In order not to hurt his pride, I used my alter ego, by Lou, to secretly buy Ethan's paintings and incorporated elements from them into fashion designs, helping him regain his confidence. Did you guys hear? At the latest fashion show, the new collection just launched. The highlight was the wedding dress designed by up-and-coming designer Ashley. In the industry, aside from Teacher by Lou, Ashley's designs are the most distinctive. Apparently, the patterns on that dress were all hand-drawn by the genius artist Ethan. How romantic. A love story where both people chase each other. But didn't they break up a long time ago? Ethan already has a new girlfriend. So what? Getting back together is even better. They're such a perfect match. Having a girlfriend does not matter. Love is for the brave. Besides, Miss Lin and Mr. Shin knew each other first. Love should be between equals. That junior college girl was never a good match. Love should help both sides grow. That girl only dragged Mr. Shin down like a parasite. The girls chattered on, flipping through fashion magazines with bright smiles. Emma's face turned pale. What kind of twisted logic was this? Don't mind them, I said, stopping Emma from arguing, and shook my head. As we left the cafe, Emma was still fuming. I do not want to get involved in this relationship anymore, I sighed, but you've done so much for him. You've already taken 99 steps toward him. Scarlett, are you really going to give up, as my best friend? Emma understood my feelings better than anyone. I nodded, my eyes filled with determination. I do not want to wait for her anymore. Ethan is unwilling to take the first step. Even if I go to him, he will always end up chasing someone else. If you realize you are on the wrong path, you should change direction in time. If one day you stand side by side with Ethan, or even higher than him, and he regrets everything and comes running back to you, would you turn around? I shook my head. People do not stay in the same place forever. After packing up, I ran into an unexpected visitor at my apartment door. I recognized her, Ethan's sister, Sophia. Sophia looked at me with deep disdain in her eyes. I won't come in and sit down. I came here to tell you that in the Shin family, the only daughter-in-law we accept is Ashley. Scarlett, you know that you and Anyan are different. You simply cannot connect with him on a deeper level. For generations, the Jiang and Lin families have dedicated their lives to their own ideals. Scarlett, do not force yourself into a circle that will never accept you. I looked at the aggressive Sophia with a half-smile. Is that so? Then why did Ashley insist on leaving him back then? Was it because she could not connect with Ethan's soul? In any case, Scarlett, I hope we can give each other some dignity. My brother is confused. But I hope you can be wise enough to let go and walk away. All right, I have an academic discussion on traditional culture to attend. I will not waste any more time here. With that, she turned and left gracefully. I watched her back, a mocking smile in my eyes. When Ethan suffered from depression, it was Sophia who had told me solemnly, Anyan is fragile right now. Scarlett, I feel at ease leaving him with you. But now, Sophia was asking me to show some dignity and back away. That evening, when Ethan came home, I noticed he had changed clothes. I recognized it immediately. The latest couples set, designed by Ashley. Ethan noticed my gaze and quickly explained, I threw up on myself. Ashley only had this men's outfit at her place. Don't worry, nothing happened between us. Ryan was there, too. I smiled. Ryan was Ashley and Ethan's biggest fan. Ethan looked a bit guilty as he held up a cake. Tomorrow is our anniversary. I bought your favorite mango cake. I stared at the melted cake. A little dazed. Sorry, it melted a bit. Ethan looked annoyed with himself. He had forgotten to put it in the fridge after delivering medicine to Ashley. It's fine. You can still make a wish. I shook my head. Ethan, I'm allergic to mango. Did you forget? Besides, it's already gone bad. Just throw it away. Go get some rest. Ethan stared after me, feeling a strange panic. He seemed to make up his mind and suddenly grabbed my hand. Scarlett, would you come home with me tomorrow? Come and meet my family. Formally. This time, I had wanted to tell Ethan I planned to leave. What were the Shin siblings really up to? Remembering Sophia's attitude today, I decided it was best to lay everything out in the open at the Shun house, so there would be no misunderstandings. Scarlett, you seem different these days. Ethan looked at me in the car, his eyes filled with a complex emotion. I ignored him and looked out at the passing scenery. The Shun family was famous in the capital for their literary and cultural background. The place was overflowing with the charm of scholars and writers. I heard Ainyan is bringing his girlfriend home today, so I invited myself along to help his mother check her out. Scarlett, you do not mind, do you? Ashley smiled sweetly, making Mrs. Shun beam with delight. How could we mind? We are all family here. Sophia looked at me, her expression meaningful. They were a family. I was just an outsider, in the Shun household. Ashley was the center of attention, effortlessly engaging everyone in conversations I could not join. Well versed in history and culture, always quoting classics, even Mr. Shun could not help but praise her again and again. I sat quietly to the side, sipping my tea, left out and invisible. Ashley, why don't you take Scarlett for a walk in the garden? Mrs. Shun said, giving Ashley a look of disdain toward me. It was clear she just wanted to send me away. Sensing this, I went out without protest. Scarlett, let's talk. Ashley caught up with me. We all appreciate what you've done for Ainyan, but you can see it for yourself. The Shun family's ideal daughter-in-law is me. Ours is a prestigious literary family, famous in the capital, and we care about being well-matched. You're a smart woman. I'm sure you know what's best for yourself. I met her gaze with a trace of mockery in my eyes. Well-matched. Are you all just making decisions for Ethan, without asking what he wants? No matter how many chances he gets, the answer will be the same. Have you not figured that out by now? Scarlett, Ashley looked at me, her smile holding a deeper meaning. I could even sponsor you to study abroad, help you become a socialite, and let you blend into this circle. Then you might find a marriage here yourself. There was pity in Ashley's eyes, as if she looked down at me from above. I don't need it. Scarlett, is this really necessary? Then I'll have to make sure you give up for good. Ashley's eyes glimmered with amusement. I ignored her and turned away. This family dinner at the Shun house ended badly for me. On the way home, Ethan looked tired. Just as I was about to tell him about breaking up, Sophia called urgently, Ainyan, come home quickly. Ashley is in a really bad state. At the same time, Ashley sent Ethan a photo. She was wearing the wedding dress she designed, sitting on the rooftop of a skyscraper. The wind lifting her dress, her face heartbreakingly beautiful. Ainyan, I'll marry you in the next life. I watched as Ethan, without hesitation, ran toward the skyscraper. My tears blown away by the wind, I turned in the opposite direction and left. Back home, I packed my things. Weibo was buzzing with new headlines. The epic love of a genius painter and a rising star in fashion. There were photos of Ashley and Ethan locked in a passionate embrace. The marketing accounts kept pushing the story. Probably Sophia's handiwork. I sighed and changed my flight to 10 o'clock the next night. It was almost midnight when Ethan finally staggered back home, reeking of alcohol. I dampened a towel and gently wiped his face. Ethan suddenly grabbed my hand and pulled me into his arms. Scarlett, Ashley has depression. I was just trying to comfort her, that's all. Don't overthink it. I know. Back when Ethan was accused of plagiarism and became deeply depressed, it was me who stuck with him, helping him out of the darkness step by step. I still remember the time he tried to end it all in the bathroom, when I rushed through the rain, broke down his door, and carried him, his wrists bloody and mangled, all the way to the hospital. I felt dazed, wanting to push him away, but he only held me tighter. Suddenly, there was a ring on my finger. Scarlett, it's an anniversary gift, Ethan whispered. I looked at the ill-fitting ring and gave a bitter smile. It was too big, not my size at all. Compared to Ashley's grand public displays of romance, Ethan's so-called love for me was just drunken rambling. Scarlett, let's get engaged after my next competition. Okay, the year's almost over. We can have a family dinner. Didn't you say your dad wants to meet me? What kind of gift would he like? Scarlett, why are you crying? Ethan was flustered. He had never seen me cry before and did not know what to do. I had mentioned so many times that I wanted to take him home, but Ethan always said he was too busy to go with me. That family dinner would never happen now. I wiped away my tears and quickly composed myself. Ethan felt my trembling. Thinking I was moved to tears, not realizing what was truly in my heart, he gently patted my back, trying to comfort me. "It's okay. Don't cry." Today, when Ashley questioned him, Scarlett was the only one on his mind. He thought that once Ashley's condition finally stabilized, he would marry Scarlett. "It's too late. Go to bed early," I said, turning to leave for my room. "Scarlett, let's celebrate our anniversary tomorrow. We'll just stay home, not go anywhere." Ethan, flustered, tugged at my hand. I nodded. Tomorrow, I'd tell him everything and make a clean break. The next day, I made a big meal, but when I opened Ethan's door, he was nowhere to be found. "Scarlett, I'm taking Ashley to the hospital for a follow-up. I'll be home to eat with you tonight." I waited quietly at the table, reheating the food again and again, but by 8 o'clock, Ethan still hadn't come home. A bitter smile formed on my lips. It was time for me to leave. During the last few minutes in the airport lounge, I tried calling Ethan, but his phone was off. Opening WeChat, I saw Sophia's new update on her moments. There was Ashley, Ethan, and the Shin parents, all gathered around, enjoying a happy family dinner. The caption read, "Welcoming our family's new member." I liked the post. Then found Ethan's profile, typed my message, and sent it. "We're over. I wish you and Ashley happiness. Your ring is on the table, Ethan. I won't wait for you this time." Then, I blocked him and threw my phone in the airport trash. Just after landing, I spotted my brother James waiting at arrivals. "All settled?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "No matter what, Scarlett, welcome home." My mother's eyes shimmered with tears when she saw me. "It's good you're back." Meanwhile, Ethan was frowning. He had finally settled things with Ashley, taken her home to the Shin family, and comforted her. It was already late, so he asked Sophia to take care of Ashley and hurried to leave. All he could think about was Scarlett waiting for him at home. He wanted to call her but found his phone was off. A wave of unease washed over him. He kept telling himself Scarlett would always wait for him, just like she always did, quietly sitting on the sofa until he came home. But when he walked into the house, all he saw was cold, untouched food. He rushed into Scarlett's room. It was empty. He quickly charged his phone and saw Scarlett's messages. "Where are you?" he texted, but got nothing but a red exclamation mark. Scarlett had blocked him. Now Ethan truly panicked. He kept calling her, but her phone was off. At last, he understood the root of his recent anxiety. Scarlett's new maturity was because she no longer cared. Everything had changed since she came back. What had happened? They were supposed to be getting married soon. Scarlett had done so much for him. How could she give up and just leave? No, as soon as the competition ended, he'd marry her. Scarlett would wait for him. She had to. But I had no time to think about Ethan anymore. There was a mountain of things waiting at home. James, who had taken over after our father's death, was barely holding things together. "Scarlett, you don't have to push yourself so hard." James looked at me, concern in his eyes. "James, arrange for me to meet with Mr. Pay tomorrow. We can't go on like this." There were plenty of fashion magazines at the cafe. Eric casually grabbed one. "The latest issue, Scarlett, merging tradition and modernity is a huge undertaking," he said, flipping to an article about Ethan's competition entry. His latest painting was a portrait, a woman's silhouette, her figure elegantly outlined by a pale yellow chipow. Another painting was of a young man's back, marked by the passage of time, stirring controversy. Just then, the TV broadcasted the award ceremony live. "Miss Lin, is that your silhouette in the painting? It looks a lot like Mr. Shin's new work. These two paintings are a perfect match. Did you paint the other one?" Ashley smiled and admitted it on camera. I looked at Ethan in the video. He did not deny it. Passing off another's work as your own is the greatest disgrace in the art world. Yet Ethan did it for Ashley, committing the very thing he once despised most. A faint, bitter smile tugged at my lips. "I really like Scarlett's designs," Mr. Pay said, "but since she's not formally trained, there might be some risk. Still, risk comes with opportunity. I believe in you. Let's work together." Jiang's family business had always hovered in the middle of the fashion world. My father gave everything for its rise. Back then, I used the name By Lou to collaborate with Emma, and I'd planned to return to the family business after marrying Ethan. I never forgot my father's wish. For Ethan, I'd given up my design major to study business in his city. Just as I was about to leave, a surprising newsflash appeared on the cafe TV. The grand prize this year did not go to Ethan's work, but to another piece, the artist's name, By Lou. On stage, Emma waved her arms. "Scarlett, I know you're watching. Are you happy?" Head lowered, Emma looked pleadingly toward Eric. "Eric, help me," she mouthed, but Eric just turned away, ignoring her. "Speak," I said coolly, keeping my tone calm. "Scarlett, I just didn't want all your hard work to be buried, so I used your designs and entered you in the competition. Ashley even tried to steal your glory." Emma's eyes flashed with anger. "The internet's gone wild. People realized how similar By Lou's and Ashley's works are, and now Ashley's being investigated. With every dig, more of Ashley's history is being exposed. Turns out, Ethan's old plagiarism scandal was actually Ashley's doing. She sold Ethan's paintings and used the money to study abroad, now that she's famous. The broker who helped sell the paintings wants more money. Looks like their deal fell through. Don't be mad, I heard you need a partnership, so I brought my brother here sincerely. Our studio can't be abandoned, and as for talent, those two together can't compare to you." Emma always felt my struggles were unfair, and a warmth filled my heart. "You brat, in 3 days, the Beijing auction needs a new piece from the champion. Part of the proceeds will go to charity. What will you paint?" I smiled, looking at those two matching paintings. "This one," I said. At the auction, I saw Ethan. This time, without Ashley at his side. "Scarlett, so you're really By Lou. I always kept that old sketch of yours. You know, I was always searching for you. The sketch I dropped years ago became his inspiration. That one fleeting glimpse from the past. But now, the person before me was no longer that young boy." The French organizer walked over to greet us, and I smiled politely. "Scarlett." Ethan seemed surprised, then something dawned on him. "I'm sorry, let's go," Eric said, walking up with a smile, giving Ethan a knowing look. "And you are?" Eric asked, extending his hand to me. I took his arm without missing a beat. "Mr. Fang, perhaps you should pay more attention to your fiancé," I said. The auction was not just about paintings. There were antiques as well. For some reason, every time I showed interest in an item, Ethan would start bidding against me. "Done bidding?" Eric asked. Amused, "We should watch the budget," I replied. "There's no point wasting money." Eric grinned and raised his paddle anyway. Ethan's eyes flashed with irritation as a Song Dynasty vase was bid up to 10 times its value. In the end, Eric won it, planning to use it as a pretty decoration. "Mr. Pay." Ethan sneered at Eric. "Seems like you do not truly understand its value. What a shame for it to gather dust." "Value," Eric echoed. "Isn't value defined by people? Money is the most direct measure of value. If I can outbid Mr. Fang by 100, 1,000, 10,000 times, then to me, this vase is priceless." He looked at Ethan, meaning clear in his eyes, just like, "If By Lou hadn't brought your paintings to life through fashion, you'd still be a nobody in the art world." You're defiling art," Ethan burst out. Eric ignored him. Next up at auction was my painting. Ethan could not breathe for a moment when he saw the subject, a figure from behind. But this time, it was not him. Eric signaled to the room, and the crowd fell silent. Ethan gripped his paddle tightly, but he never got a chance to bid. Eric's gesture meant the winner had already been decided. No matter how high the price went, Ethan kept bidding. His face turned pale, a trace of unwillingness flickering in his eyes. He simply did not have the means to compete with Eric. Even if he sold the entire Shin family, it would not be a fraction of the Pei family's wealth. When the auction ended, Eric and I prepared to return to the studio. The patterns on that vase would fit perfectly with the new clothing line. He said, "Pei Jewelry and Jiang's Fashion could both use this concept. Go ahead with your ideas." Eric nodded. "Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Pei," I replied, smiling at him. "I really like the painting you made for me," Eric whispered in my ear. When I got home, I saw a familiar figure standing by the door. "Scarlett," Ethan looked at me, a hint of tenderness in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my tone cold. I told you, after the competition, we would get married, he said, stubbornness flashing in his eyes. You do not want Ashley anymore. I told you, Ashley and I are just friends, she's just a patient. I always saw her as a sister, Ethan. I plan to take over my family's business now. We are not on the same path. Ashley fits your circle perfectly. From now on, do not come looking for me, Scarlett. Are you giving up on me? Suddenly, Ethan hugged me from behind, holding me tight around the waist. I calmly broke free. Mr. Shin, please do not make a scene. I am already engaged to someone else. You're lying. That's impossible. You would wait for me. Xiaoye, my brother called out, his voice cutting through the tension. He glanced at Ethan with open hostility. This must be Mr. Shin. I've heard Scarlett mention you. If you do not mind, come in for a bit. Ethan's eyes lit up with hope. I sighed and did not stop him. Inside, I told my brother about everything that had happened over the years. I knew his vengeful nature. How could I not understand his intentions? Seeing Eric in the living room, Ethan's face went even paler. Eric and my mother were talking, making her smile warmly. Auntie, hello. I'm Ethan. My mother greeted him kindly and motioned for him to sit. Auntie, I came here too, but my mother interrupted. Scarlett. The Pei and Jiang families have had a marriage agreement since you were children. Now that you're home and have met Mr. Pei, I won't need to arrange a blind date. Auntie, will you not ask for Scarlett's opinion? Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with determination. Eric also turned to me. Of course I'm willing. I replied. Ethan did not know how he managed to leave the Jiang house. Eric looked at me, hesitation in his eyes. I know you're just saying that to hurt him. He glanced at Ethan's departing figure. Oddly, what should have been sympathy felt strangely cold in his heart. He had looked into Ethan, and everything Ethan had done was truly disappointing. I shook my head. I'm not just saying it, otherwise, I would not have painted that picture. Ethan was right. Marriage is decided by the parents and matchmakers. We are truly well matched. I placed a ring in Eric's palm and smiled as I slid it onto his finger. The Jiang family was founded on fashion. Measuring by eye is a basic skill. Eric paused, then took out another ring from his pocket. Ours were a perfect pair, fitting just right. Emma, that girl, Eric said in surprise. We exchanged a smile. Ethan exposed Ashley's plagiarism. Not just of my painting, but of many others. All her designs had been copied. Her startup money came from selling stolen sketches. After harming herself, she fled abroad. If Ethan had not investigated overseas, he never would have known Ashley's so-called talent was all deceit. Even her designs were just another man's sketches. Thinking back on the pain of being falsely accused of plagiarism, he realized he had once defended someone who never deserved it. With her lies revealed, Ashley's reputation was destroyed. She hid in the shadows, but the man before her had ruined everything for her. Seeing her chance, she stabbed him in the hand again and again with a hidden knife. Ashley was arrested by police. Ethan was rushed to the hospital. The tendons in his hands were severed. He would never paint again. Raising a son like Ethan was not so difficult for the Shin family, but once again, Ethan shut himself off from the world. He liked to sit in the garden, staring at that yellowed sketch, my silhouette, drawn long ago. Sophia watched her brother, regret filling her heart. It was their fault, she thought, for letting him miss his happiness, but it was too late for regrets. News reports covered the Peijiang wedding. Eric and I, a perfect match in every way. Some things, once lost, can never be regained. Ethan stared into the distance. The sun had already set outside. His sun had set as well. Next, I will tell you the second story. Ethan and I never talked about love, yet we did all the intimate things that lovers do. That was, until a new young assistant appeared by his side. Suddenly, I was constantly expected to give things up, give up gifts, give up important projects, give up my special place beside him. The day I saw Ethan, so picky with me, calmly drink a cup of instant coffee handed to him by the new assistant, I felt it was all rather pointless. So I handed in my resignation. Why, I'm at the age to settle down, time to go home and get married. Sounds good, Ethan replied, forcing a smile. But for a long while, the pen in his hand hovered above the page, unmoving. The thin resignation paper was creased in his grip. Still, Ethan did not sign. He kept his head lowered. I could not read his expression, but his voice grew more and more tense, tinged with anger. Already found a new job, John Corp, or that guy who tried to poach you right in front of me last week? Are they offering more money? If it's about your salary, I can, Mr. Cheng. I have no plans to continue working for now, I interrupted with a sigh. Honestly, Ethan had always been a generous boss. The salary and bonuses I'd earned over the years would be enough for me to live comfortably for the rest of my life. No plans to work. His hand paused on the pen. At last, Ethan looked up. His handsome face was dark with frustration. After a moment of silence, he suddenly smiled, his tone pointed. That's not like you. What man can afford to support you? I kept a straight face. I can support him. Ethan let out a cold laugh. Does he know we were in the same bed just 2 nights ago? There was a sharp, venomous edge to his smile. He sneered. Would he really not care? Ethan had become more reserved over the years. It was rare to see him so openly antagonistic, but I no longer mistook that for reluctance to let me go, so I simply smiled and reminded him, "You're crossing the line." From the start, Ethan had made it clear that he did not want our relationship out in the open. It would only invite unnecessary gossip and trouble, so I had always forced myself to follow the rules. Ethan froze, seeming to realize he'd lost his composure. He pressed his lips together. Awkward, sorry. But not long after, his expensive pen hit the desk with a bang. He leaned back in his chair with a sigh, running his fingers back through his hair, his features sharper than ever. You're angry. Ethan stared at me for a long time before coming to this conclusion. He repeated, Scarlett, you're mad at me. But why? I already explained. The assistant was just drunk that night. I already spoke to her. Why are you upset about a drunk? By the end, Ethan's expression was confused and lost. We were fine just the other night, weren't we? He sounded almost aggrieved. I found it funny, but I could not help remembering that kiss Ethan had dodged, that night, swept up in passion. I had pulled myself up to kiss him, but he turned away, covering my eyes. The next moments grew even more intense, his breath hot at my ear, but his words came out cold. Sorry, I don't like kissing. I froze, feeling as if I'd plunged into ice, because Ethan did not like it. Even though we did every other intimate thing, he almost never kissed me. But then I remembered what I saw that day at the club, drunk Lily, clinging to Ethan, blushing, tiptoeing up to kiss him. That kiss could have been avoided. But Ethan did not move. He let Lily kiss the corner of his mouth, eyes downcast. So now I knew, it was never that he disliked kissing, he just did not like kissing me. Not that Ethan would remember such a detail, otherwise, he would not think everything was just fine between us. Suddenly, I felt so tired, but I managed to keep my polite smile and replied in a businesslike tone, I understand, but Assistant Duan really can't hold her liquor. If she's going to take your drinks for you in the future, that could be a problem. Why would she need to do that? Ethan frowned, sounding both confused and sure of himself. You're still here, aren't you? He seemed convinced I would never leave him. I did not respond. My gaze fell on my resignation and the handover documents on his desk. In the next second, the papers flew to the floor. Whatever pretense of grievance and frustration Ethan had been showing, he let it fade away. His face grew cold and hard. I don't agree. And I don't think the reasons you just gave are good enough for you to resign. I was not surprised. Ethan had told me more than once. To him, I was the most efficient tool. Finding and training a new one would take time and effort. Even knowing this, seeing him like this still stung a little. I thought after all these years, there would at least be some affection between us, but I was the only one who ever felt that way. As for his reason, I sighed and suddenly asked, Mr. Cheng, where is your scarf? My what? Ethan frowned in confusion. The next second, it was as if he suddenly remembered something. His face froze instantly. I had given Ethan a scarf, one I'd knitted myself, knowing how picky he was. I unraveled and remade it over and over until it was perfect. When Ethan received it, he actually seemed pretty pleased. The most obvious proof, that month, he wore his trench coat much more often, but fondness, it seems, is always relative. The scarf ended up in the trash after Lily got it dirty. When the assistant nervously asked if she should pay for a replacement, Ethan simply glanced at her and casually reassured her, "It's nothing, just a cheap thing." He did not seem to remember that it was a gift from me. And even if he did, he certainly would not have picked it out of the trash. Once it was gone for good. Suddenly, his gaze darted away from my face, as if burned. "Maybe I put it away somewhere," Ethan replied stiffly, forcing a cold face to cover his guilt. "It's been too hot lately. I thought you just didn't like it anymore and threw it away," I said softly. "Scarlet," Ethan's brow furrowed, an embarrassed flush rising in his voice. But mostly he was just confused. "It's just a scarf. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? Just a scarf." That familiar way of brushing things off. Just like when Ethan told me to hand over the project I'd worked on for 6 months to Lily. "It's just a project, and you could use a break." One offhand sentence turned half a year's effort into a joke. The ache in my chest seemed to tighten and close around my heart. I barely managed to keep up my usual polite smile. "Maybe I'm just petty," I replied, ignoring Ethan's darkened face. I picked up the papers and placed them back on his desk. "If you won't approve it, then we'll follow company policy. I'll automatically be dismissed after 7 days unexcused absence. I've nearly finished the handover anyway. If you're still not satisfied, you can add any clause you want to the non-compete. I'll accept whatever you write." It did not matter. I had no intention of working again. Ethan's gaze fell to the application. He seemed to calm down. Or maybe he was just holding back his anger, the veins on the back of his hand bulging as he pressed it to the table. Finally, he looked up at me. Eyes dark and heavy. Since he said nothing, I had no reason to stay. As I left, Lily knocked and entered, holding a cup of coffee. I glanced over but did not speak. Just as I was about to step out, Lily's timid voice sounded behind me. "Miss Shea." Assistant Shea always said my coffee was bad. "I've been practicing a lot in private. I wonder what Mr. Cheng thinks." Her tone was hopeful. "Really, I think it's much better than hers," Ethan replied coldly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Without turning, I could feel his angry gaze on my back. Lily's voice perked up. "Really, I actually think but I did not stay to hear it. The moment I saw Ethan, so critical of everything, drink Lily's instant coffee without complaint, I already knew the answer. There was no point anymore, I thought. I did not withdraw my resignation online. From the moment I made my decision, I began handing over all my work. After all these years, it was not something I could finish overnight. Thankfully, most of what was left could be completed remotely, and I no longer needed to see Ethan or orbit around him. There was a lot more free time than before, so I started planning a travel itinerary. A long time ago, Ethan promised he'd go traveling with me, but in the end, it was just me alone. Just as I was getting started, Daniel called. His voice was hesitant. Miss Shea, where are you?" I blinked. At home. Knowing Ethan's personality, he probably would not let me leave easily. So my only option was to be absent without leave. Daniel made a sound, as if about to say something more, but there was a burst of noise in the background. Then someone else took the phone. "Did you forget about tonight's reception?" The familiar voice was barely containing its anger. "Mr. Cheng," I sighed, rubbing my temples. "I already submitted my resignation. This reception is important, and Assistant Duan isn't familiar with the process," Ethan interrupted, his tone faintly mocking. "So this is how you responsibly promised to train your replacement and finish the handover." I took a deep breath and smiled. "So you want me to attend tonight, Mr. Cheng?" Scarlet, he called my name and then fell silent for a long moment. I frowned. Actually, contract, just that one word. And my well-prepared excuses stuck in my throat. I ended up going to the reception. Lily trailed after Ethan, nervously greeting me. "Miss Shea, sorry to trouble you again." Trouble for what? Before I could answer, Ethan cut in coldly. "It's her job." Maybe now that we had ripped off the mask, he was not even trying to be polite. His attitude was sharper than ever. I said nothing, following quietly at Ethan's side as usual. But when I caught sight of the familiar necklace on Lily's neck, I was momentarily distracted. I had seen it before. Ethan had Daniel pick it up after placing the order. Daniel could not keep a secret. As soon as he got the necklace, He happily told me Ethan was preparing a birthday present for me. I was quietly happy all day, until, after work, I saw that box sitting on Lily's desk in a photo. By the end of the day, Ethan still had not remembered my birthday. "What are you looking at?" His cool voice snapped me out of my thoughts. I shook my head. "Nothing," but Ethan followed my gaze. Then his eyes seemed to sweep over my empty neck, and he frowned. He said nothing more, but just before entering the reception hall, Ethan suddenly paused. He instinctively leaned toward me, but with a stern face, looking straight ahead, he said stiffly, "I'll get you something better." He thought I wanted the necklace. I was surprised, but kept my smile. "No need for that, Mr. Cheng." Ethan stared at me, his dark eyes turbulent with emotion. After a long moment, he finally muttered coldly, "Suit yourself." With Lily by his side, Ethan attracted plenty of attention, especially when he stepped in to take a few drinks for her. "She can't hold her liquor, better me than her making a scene," he said simply, but anyone could hear the protectiveness in his tone. Those ambiguous, sympathetic looks soon fell on me. Everyone here was sharp, who couldn't see my feelings for Ethan, but back when I drank until my stomach hurt, Ethan never stepped in for me, because for me, it was just part of the job. I lowered my head and ignored the looks, softly explaining to Lily who was who and what to watch out for. With nobody else to shield him, Ethan ended up drinking quite a bit. A flush crept across his pale face, making Lily anxious. Before another group came over, she shot me a quick, pleading look, then tugged on Ethan's sleeve, whispering, "I can do it, I'll drink for you." "Mr. Cheng, what are you trying to do?" Ethan frowned, annoyed. He ran a hand through his hair, then let out a sarcastic laugh, his gaze landing on me, lips curling up. "Isn't there someone else right here?" My hands clenched involuntarily at my sides. I took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Sorry, Mr. Cheng. I've been taking herbal medicine lately, so I really can't drink." As soon as I finished, Ethan's expression darkened. He set his glass down with a sharp clink. "Scarlett." Maybe it was the alcohol talking, maybe it was my repeated refusals that finally pushed Ethan over the edge. He looked up, eyes icy, staring down at me almost condescendingly, enunciating each word. "Don't forget, I haven't agreed to your resignation yet. Or do you want to breach the contract just to leave?" Those two words, breach contract, fell hard, leaving me dizzy, but also strangely relieved, like the dust had finally settled. I smiled quietly. "So, Mr. Cheng, you're finally going to use that contract." Ethan pressed his lips together, silent. Those black eyes were clouded, fixed tightly on me. Calling it a contract was an understatement. It was more like a binding agreement. Back when Ethan was still immature, his father had asked me to stay by his side, assisting him as best I could. Ethan's mother had helped my mom divorce my awful father, and the Cheng family's support had gotten me through school, so after a little hesitation, I signed that contract. 6 years at Hanhai Group, Ethan knew about it. Back then, he still saw me as his rival, not nearly as steady as he is now. When he found out, he marched straight to Mr. Cheng, demanding it be torn up. "I can handle it myself, I don't need that annoying girl's help." He glared at me, cocky and wild with his dyed red hair. "You're pretty sharp when you're tricking me. Did you even read the whole contract before signing? Do you know what you're getting into?" I had read it. The pay was astonishingly generous, but if I broke it, I'd lose my reputation and owe a fortune in damages. Ethan turned his back to his father, frustrated and disappointed. I almost laughed, but deep down, I realized maybe he did not hate me as much as he let on. "Just don't breach the contract, right?" I said. Ethan was at a loss for words and could only threaten. "If you ever regret this, you'll have nowhere to cry." I thought, I would never regret it. Ethan always hated that contract. Then, after his parents died in a car crash and the board began circling like vultures, he grew up overnight. I helped him through the funerals, saw wave after wave of people off, sincere or not. When the last guest left, Ethan stared at his parents' photo, silent for a long time. Finally, he brought up the contract. "I know it's kind of shameful," he said hoarsely, "but I'm suddenly so glad you signed it." "Scarlett, will you leave me too?" he asked with his back to me, head down, unable to meet my eyes. I had never seen Ethan look so uncertain. Even when he once shielded me from a much bigger bully, he pulled me behind him and spat, "Anyone who hits his wife or kids deserves to die." So I stepped to his side and answered, "No, I won't." Ethan looked up suddenly, his eyes red but shining with hope. Then he laughed and cried at once. That contract became a thread, tying me and Ethan together ever since. Years later, when our feelings were deepest, Ethan brought up the contract again. "You can do whatever you want now," he whispered, arms tight around my waist. "If you want to leave, just tell me. I'll let you out of the contract. Scarlett, you'll never be in breach with me." Maybe because he sounded so sincere that night, I believed him. I nearly forgot about the contract altogether. Now, hearing it again, it felt like the sword of Damocles, hanging for years, finally fell, drawing blood. I was not even that upset. Mostly, it seemed ridiculous. Ethan was the one who finally looked away, uncomfortable, voice dropping. "There's 1 year left." As soon as he spoke, I saw the assistant's face change. She forced a smile, trying to smooth things over. "Mr. Cheng, if Miss Xia can't drink, it's fine. I should practice holding my liquor anyway." Ethan ignored Lily. He clenched his jaw, voice hard. "Until the contract ends, you are my assistant." He bit down on "my" as if to make a point. I barely paid attention. People really are treated differently. I thought, look at how carefully Ethan protected Lily, always making me train her and shield her, never letting her suffer. So I drew my gaze away and replied calmly, "I understand, Mr. Cheng." Ethan's hand twitched at his side, but he forced himself to keep it there. He grunted, "Back to work tomorrow. There's plenty piled up. Your recent absence will be considered sick leave." I gave no answer. When the next guest came by, I blocked a toast for Ethan, just as I had so many times before, but this time, I was not really doing it for him. The burning alcohol scorched all the way down, my stomach cramping painfully. I pressed a hand to my middle, thinking all that medicine I took for my health was wasted. While Ethan chatted with someone else, his eyes flicked my way, pausing for a second. As soon as the person left, he turned to speak, but Lily let out a little yelp. "What's wrong?" "I think I twisted my ankle. It hurts," Lily explained, blushing. Maybe it was my imagination. But Ethan seemed to relax just a little. He said, "We've greeted everyone who matters. Since that's the case, let's go home early." I quietly let out a breath of relief. Maybe Ethan's concern for Lily was not such a bad thing for me after all. Because Lily was limping, she walked slowly. Ethan watched her, frowning deeply. Then finally let out an annoyed "TSK. You wait here," he said, not looking at me, and with that, scooped Lily up in his arms and strode away. He really was worried. I turned away. Not bothering to dwell on what Ethan had just said, I was about to flag down a cab, when I ran into a familiar face, President Song. The car window rolled down, and I looked at him in surprise. "What brings you here? I saw you drinking quite a bit tonight. I guess you're not following the doctor's advice at all." Ryan sighed dramatically, then beckoned me over with his finger. "Since we're both patients, how about I give you a ride?" Not long ago, my stomach problems had flared up again. At the hospital, I'd run into Ryan, who had drunk himself into a gastric hemorrhage. We'd ended up with the same doctor, both getting scolded without daring to talk back. We exchanged a look, two fellow sufferers, a bit of a fateful encounter. Since hailing a cab here was a hassle, I didn't refuse. I thanked him and got in his car. "Ethan made you block his drinks again." Ryan clicked his tongue. "Seriously, Miss Xia, you should consider switching to our company. I treat my people way better than Cheng does." He tried to poach me right in front of Ethan before. I shot him a look and said bluntly, "You just want someone to handle the drinks, right?" Ryan just grinned, saying nothing. After we'd been driving for a while, he suddenly spoke up. "I think I just saw Ethan." I was surprised. "Didn't he go home with Assistant Duan?" "Who knows?" Ryan smirked. He looked pretty upset. "Was he coming to look for you?" His question reminded me of Ethan's last words before leaving, but hearing the gossipy tone, I pressed my still aching stomach and smiled. "How could that be? I'm just an unimportant person. Maybe Mr. Cheng left something at the venue." Ryan just laughed with me, not pushing the issue. Ethan, after sending Lily home in the car, hurried back. He couldn't help replaying the image of Scarlett's pale face after drinking. frustration tightening his lips. He remembered her saying she was on medication and shouldn't drink, but her repeated refusals these days had made him so angry. She was resigning for no real reason, wouldn't accept the necklace he bought, kept her distance at every turn. He was furious. That was why he'd used the contract to force Scarlett to come to the event. Why he wanted to force her to admit their relationship, but once Scarlett actually did block a drink for him, all he felt was regret. Or maybe even earlier, when he'd used the contract to force her hand, he'd already started to regret it, but he just couldn't bring himself to apologize, after all these years. Scarlett was always the one who gave in and forgave him. He'd gotten used to it, started thinking it was only natural, but this time felt different. He remembered Scarlett's half-laugh, half-sigh. So Mr. Cheng is finally using the contract. Panic bubbled up inside Ethan. It felt like he was really about to lose something important, but he quickly talked himself out of it. No way, he and Scarlett had so many years behind them, and she'd promised to always be with him. But even so, he quickened his pace, and saw Scarlett getting into Ryan's car, smiling in a way she never did with him, relaxed, at ease, nothing like her distant politeness with Ethan. Jealousy and anger ate away the last of Ethan's self-control. He suddenly remembered that dinner, where Ryan had tried to poach Scarlett in front of him. She'd refused, but their easy familiarity was obvious. When had they become so close? When had they even met? Ethan had no idea. Scarlett's words came back to him. It's time for me to settle down and get married. I can support him, too. He'd thought those were just excuses to leave. Never really considered that she might actually have someone else. Never imagined Scarlett would leave him for another man. So was Ryan that other man? Just the thought made his anger boil over. He pulled out his phone to call Scarlett, but couldn't get through. Finally, his last call was hung up on. Was she worried Ryan would get the wrong idea? Ethan sneered to himself. He lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done in ages, because Scarlett hated the smell, but now. He watched the cigarette burn down to ash in silence, eyes growing red. Life returned to routine. I went to work and got off on time. Most tasks already handed over. Lily had taken my place, and the one who'd forced me back with a contract now ignored me. Ethan's cold gaze swept the office, then landed on Lily. Assistant Duan. Come to my office. Okay, Lily beamed, clearly having replaced me as Ethan's right hand. As she walked by, she gave me a nervous glance. She was young, she couldn't hide her feelings, but honestly, I was just glad to have nothing to do. Getting paid for doing nothing felt great. Daniel and the others, however, were upset on my behalf. He asked, Miss Shea, are you really planning to leave? Of course, I said, sipping my milk tea. Why wouldn't I? I never withdrew my application, but you've worked here so long, and given so much. You're really okay being replaced, especially by Lily. Assistant Duan is improving, I said. Cutting him off with a smile. Let's not talk behind people's backs, someone might hear. Daniel shut up, but after a while, he could not resist asking what I planned to do after resigning. Travel, I guess, I said, chewing my straw. I had saved enough money. After all, loafing around the break room was surprisingly fun. No wonder the juniors all liked it here. I was about to ask for gossip when everyone's faces suddenly changed. Hello, Mr. Cheng, they whispered. Standing up straight, Ethan. I turned and, to my shock, saw him in the break room, a place that seemed totally at odds with his image. He gave a curt walked past without glancing at me, made himself a cup of coffee, and left. As he passed, he paused and gave a low, cold laugh. Clearly he'd overheard us. I did not care. The juniors all relaxed as soon as he left. Is everyone really that scared of him? I joked. Of course. Daniel wailed, even the cleaning ladies are afraid of him. Miss Shea. You're the only one who's ever dared to speak freely in front of him. I just smiled, thinking, well, not anymore. That contract really was a problem, but not an unsolvable one. Ethan finally reached out a week later. He called, but said nothing at first. When I finally got impatient and threatened to hang up, he rasped out, why did you block me? I was surprised. He'd noticed so soon. Just today I'd seen, by chance, Ethan post a rare photo of flowers to his private moments. It was the bouquet I'd seen Lily bringing to the office, putting in a vase on her desk, Plenty of friends teased him under the post about spring being in the air. Ethan never responded. I accidentally liked the post, then quickly took it back, thinking there was no point staying in touch. I blocked his private account too, so I said, "You still have my work number, don't you? If there's anything work-related, just contact me there. No need to stir up gossip or unnecessary trouble." This was something Ethan used to say. On the other end of the line, I heard something get knocked over. He was silent for a moment, then said suddenly, "You still have things here." My things. His words reminded me that when I used to live at Ethan's apartment, I had indeed left quite a lot behind. "If you've decided to leave, then come get all your stuff." A muffled cough came through, quickly suppressed. Ethan paused, then added, "Martha has packed everything. If you don't pick it up, I'll have Martha throw it all away." "Then just throw it away," I answered without thinking. Apparently, he hadn't expected me to say that. His breathing stopped for a second, then sounded surprised. "Throw it away? Some of your favorite books are in there. I've read them so many times, I'm tired of them. They're useless now anyway, just taking up space," I said calmly. After a moment of silence, Ethan changed the subject. "I need the old contract for the Chungshi land deal. Daniel knows where it is. You can ask him. My ruby cufflink is missing. Did you put it somewhere?" "I don't know. Martha found a whole box of things. My memory's not great, not sure if any of it's mine. If you have time, come by and check. If you lost something of mine, in the future." "Ethan," I sighed and cut him off. "What are you doing right now? I don't even want my own stuff back. What makes you think I'd go out of my way to find yours? If you keep this up," I suddenly laughed, "I might start thinking you actually like me." Ethan had never told me he liked me, so this time, his response was to hang up without a word, almost like he was sulking. I thought for a moment and finally sent a message. "I'll be visiting Mr. Cheng at the old house the day after tomorrow. If you're free, you can come too." Sent from my work account, as expected. There was no reply. I thought Ethan would just ignore it, but as soon as I went downstairs, I saw him leaning against his car, waiting for me. His long fingers held a half-smoked cigarette. There were a few burnt-out stubs at his feet. Who knew how long he'd been waiting? In the chilly spring air, his trench coat looked thin. The only thing keeping him warm was that very familiar scarf. I truly hadn't expected Ethan to fish that scarf out of the trash and actually use it again, when he saw me approach. Ethan raised his hand and blew out a puff of smoke, glaring at me with dark, unblinking eyes. In the past, I would have grabbed his cigarette away, scolding him for not caring about his health. I pretended not to notice, surprised. "Is Mr. Cheng here to pick me up?" He froze for a moment, then stubbed out the cigarette, almost sulking, and got in the car. "Grandpa wants us over for dinner." Ethan reeked of smoke. As soon as I got in, I instinctively opened the window for fresh air. He glanced over, but said nothing. At the first red light, Ethan spoke, almost as if explaining himself. "I haven't smoked that much." I thought, "Are you just putting on a show for me?" But I just replied politely, "Oh." Ethan waited for me to say more, but I didn't. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but swallowed it back down. The drive back to the old house was silent. Ethan's relationship with his grandfather William was never close. They only got in touch more often after his parents passed, because Ethan needed William's support for business, but it was never the usual grandparent-grandchild dynamic, especially when, after inviting us for dinner, William filled the table with spicy dishes and seafood. Ethan's face was tense. "What's this about? What do you mean?" William asked, all dignity even in retirement. He glanced over. "Aren't these all your favorites? Scarlett can't eat spicy food. Her stomach's sensitive. She's allergic to seafood. I told the housekeeper about this ages ago." Ethan was trying to hold back his anger. "Really?" William smiled knowingly. "When Miss Shea used to come over for dinner, she never mentioned any of this. Seems she was accommodating an old man's preferences. It's not such a big deal," I said, managing a smile as I picked up a piece of spicy chicken. But before I could even take a bite, Ethan snatched my bowl and chopsticks away. "Don't eat that." He lowered his voice. "I'll have the housekeeper make you some porridge." I didn't say anything, just stared at Ethan, watching him shift his eyes guiltily away from mine. "If you don't want to eat, let's get down to business. William set his chopsticks down, tone calm. So, how are things with the Dewan girl lately? When Lily was mentioned, Ethan instinctively shot me a nervous look, pressed his lips together, resisting. Grandpa, Miss Shea isn't an outsider, William interrupted, laughing. Who knows? Maybe when you get married, she'll be at the main table. Grandpa, the old man's smile faded. He had someone bring out a contract and sighed. Miss Shea has been by your side all these years, even if she's not accomplished. She's certainly worked hard. Now that she wants to leave, and you're forcing her to stay, everyone's going to say you're heartless. He put the release contract in front of Ethan. A few strong bodyguards appeared behind him. Ethan finally realized what was happening. He looked up, staring at me, furious. So you knew, you planned this, but his eyes suddenly turned red, and his voice trembled. Scarlett, I'm not signing, don't even think about it. He struggled to stand, only to be pressed back down hard. He started coughing, chest tight, but his eyes never left me, as if he was the one suffering. But really, for 5 years, I ate food that wasn't right for me. For 5 years, I did a job I didn't even like. I looked at him calmly. After a moment, I added, Ethan, I don't even like porridge, and I hate the smell of alcohol, because my father used to drink, and he'd hit people after. Ethan used to know all of this. In the end, Ethan was forced by the bodyguards to sign his name. As the pen left the page, it was as if all the strength drained from his body. He lowered his head, clutching the paper tightly, saying nothing. It was a long time before, in a hoarse voice, he asked, So, do you really like Ryan that much? Ryan, what did this have to do with him? I frowned and answered coldly, no. I could not see Ethan's expression, but with my goal accomplished, I had no intention of staying any longer. When I said goodbye to William, he looked at me for a long moment, then just waved his hand and let out a sigh. I could guess what the old man wanted to say, but it no longer mattered. Years ago, William was actually pretty good to me, maybe because he was getting older. And with his son and daughter-in-law gone, he started to feel the pull of family ties. But Ethan, his only grandson, was still stubborn as ever. Back then, I spent a lot of time at the old house for Ethan's sake, and became a familiar face to the old man. He would always ask roundabout questions about Ethan. But the more I talked, the more he seemed to sense something, until one day, he saw Ethan rushing me to the hospital when I was sick. William did not say anything. He just started inviting me to stay for meals whenever I dropped off documents at the old house. But every time I ate, I'd feel unwell for days. If you don't want to eat, don't, he finally said one day, personally ladling a bowl of soup for me. Then, with a meaningful look, back then, Jingfeng wouldn't listen to me, insisted on marrying whoever he wanted. He fought for his wife, your Aunt Ayu's mother, even lost his life for it. He raised a son, and that did not work out either. So, you see, just because you like someone, doesn't mean it's right. Wouldn't you say, Miss Shea? That was his warning. I never mentioned it to Ethan. I just worked harder, thinking maybe one day I'd earn the old man's approval. What I never expected was that Ethan would be the first to give in. He accepted William's proposal. Started seeing the young Miss Dewan who had just returned from overseas. He needed the Dewan family's cooperation, but still could not let me go. But you cannot have it all. Leaving the old house, I looked down at the signed release agreement, feeling a little dazed. Being with Ethan had always seemed natural. We had known each other for years, fought and supported each other, and when the feelings were right, we got together. But that also meant neither of us ever confessed, or said who liked whom first. It was like whoever admitted it would be the first to lose, so even our breakup felt ambiguous. But at least it was over. News of my resignation from Hanhai spread quickly. Many companies reached out. But I knew most were just curious to see Ethan's reaction, so I turned them all down. Ryan even showed up himself. Is it because of the non-compete clause? He guessed that was why I refused. Frowning in indignation, don't tell me Ethan is messing with the non-compete too. That's so low. No, I said as I packed my things, helpless. I just don't want to work anymore. Nobody believed me. After all, I was famous for being a workaholic at Hanhai. So what do you plan to do? Travel, I replied. I'd nearly finished my travel itinerary already. At that, Ryan looked at me like I was some wayward teenager. That's not necessary. Really, it's not, he patted my shoulder, full of concern. It's just a man. If you want, I can introduce you to all sorts of good bachelors, but making money can't wait, you're still young. I stayed silent and just kicked him out. Not long after, I got a text. Not gonna lie, I was a travel pro back in my day. Want some tips? I could not help but laugh. It was my way of accepting Ryan's good intentions. My mom soon heard about my resignation. At first, she gently tried to talk me out of it, but after realizing I was determined, she got anxious and raised her voice. You think it's easy to find a job now? Everything is so expensive. Do you think your savings will last? And after all the Cheng family has done for us, how can you be so ungrateful? I was stunned, about to explain, when her tone suddenly changed, suspicious. Did you really resign? Or were you fired? You must have messed something up. Listen, Scarlett, if you really got fired, go and apologize to you. You two have known each other for years. He'll take you back. Here, I know a farmer who raises chickens, says free-range chickens are the healthiest. Bring one and go see you. She nagged on and on, most of it telling me to lower myself and make up with Ethan. Finally, I could not take it and cut her off. I'm not going back. Scarlett, Mom, I called, tired. Don't worry, I'll keep sending you money every month. I don't care what you do with it, just don't ask about me going back, okay? For a moment, it was like she'd been silenced. Then she only whispered, how did it come to this? You two used to be so good together. I mean, well, you know, doing it for my own good. Those words had become her shield. Whatever she did, it was always for my own good. So, was getting back with that jerk for my own good, too? Reason forced me to swallow back the questions. I just replied, and said nothing more. Chow chow, will you come home for dinner the day after tomorrow? He won't be there. I haven't seen you in so long. My hand paused on the phone. Ever since that jerk moved in with my mom after getting out of jail, I had not gone home. I had tried to reason with her, but every time ended in an argument. She always said, he's still your real father, and he's changed, you have to give him another chance. After hearing that too many times, I stopped trying, but since I would be leaving soon, I finally softened and agreed. What I did not expect was, I did not expect to see Ethan again so soon, after leaving Hanhai. My old colleagues kept messaging me almost daily to vent, complaining about how Ethan's temper had gotten even worse. Every department head now approached him with fear, terrified they might be fired the next second. Back when you were here, at least Mr. Cheng listened to you, Miss Xia, but now, Daniel would suddenly stop mid-sentence, hesitate, and then sigh. To be honest, we all thought Lily would replace you after you left, but from the way Mr. Cheng acts, it's like he still expects you to come back. So, even though I tried to avoid news of Ethan, after so many years sharing the same circles, I still heard things about him, like how he had a big fight with William, like how he ended up in the hospital from a bleeding ulcer after drinking too much, like how my position at work remained vacant, and Lily ended up resigning. I just responded with an indifferent oh, until I saw Ethan again. At my mother's house, he was still wearing that scarf, smiling warmly as he chatted with my mom, nothing like the bad-tempered and moody man my former colleagues described. My mom looked both surprised and delighted. When she saw me, she was even happier. Chow chow, look who's here. Didn't I say, you and you have always been close? There's no way you just break up like that. You two should talk. The moment Ethan heard my name, his back stiffened. He did not turn around, or maybe he just could not. Mom. I turned my eyes away and greeted her in a calm voice. Do you still wish I'd be like when I was young, throw away my pride, and do whatever it took to win him back? At that, my mom's smile froze. Ethan, too, stood up suddenly, anxious, almost flustered. He lowered his eyes, his voice soft and disappointed. Don't blame Auntie, I just haven't had her cooking in a long time, so I shamelessly showed up. I walked Ethan out, so now I'm not even qualified to stay for a meal. He tried to smile, but it looked worse than crying. But that smile faded under my gaze. There's no need. I shook my head. If you stay, she'll keep hoping for something that isn't there, and that makes things harder for me. Ethan pressed his lips tight. As we neared his car, he suddenly spoke, his voice hoarse. I just miss you. At first, I couldn't get used to it at all. The new people just aren't as careful as you, don't remember things as well, aren't as organized, everything felt wrong. Then coming home and not seeing you, I know people at work say I've become impossible to deal with, but I just can't control it. When you were there, I never," he trailed off, lost and uncertain. "When you were there, none of this ever happened. I'm not used to it either." I saw Ethan's eyes light up when I said that. He rushed. "Then, it's hard, but I'm getting used to it, slowly. Just like at first, it was hard for me to get used to revolving my life around you." I looked straight at him, watching the light in his eyes go out again. "You'll get used to it, too. Your life doesn't only revolve around me, and my life shouldn't only revolve around you. But you promised. His voice trembled as he raised his hand. "You promised you'd always stay with me, never leave." "But Ethan." I looked into the distance and spoke softly. "You were the one who left me first." I knew there was a thorn buried in Ethan's heart. People pretended to comfort him, but mocked him behind his back, saying he always relied on his parents, then on me. TSK, do you think Ethan just used his looks to get Scarlett to stay? If he begged me for help, maybe I'd cave for his face. Ha ha ha. It got worse and worse. Ethan had just smiled wryly and said, "They're just jealous I have a friend like you." But there was always a shadow in his eyes. I knew he took it to heart, but I never knew how to comfort him. I thought the pain would fade with time, until the night I overheard him drunk, like her. "No, Scarlett's just a capable assistant. My parents liked that. Which is why they made sure to keep her at Han High. Would you ever fall for a tool?" Every word was clear. That was when I realized how deep that thorn had gone. Ethan's eyes went wide as I brought up the past, and he blurted out, eager to explain. But I cut him off. "I know, you regretted it as soon as you said it." I could not help laughing, because after that, Ethan always seemed guilty whenever he saw me. But that became a thorn for me, too. Every time I remembered, it would ache, sour and bitter. So I knew, back then, you felt just as bad as I did. Ethan's throat worked, but no words came out. His posture, always so straight, slumped as if in pain. He tried to smile. "So you're never coming back to Han High? You don't need me anymore, Ethan." "But Ethan can't be without Scarlett." He said it softly, but I heard it. I just smiled, not answering. It took me a long time to understand. Because of pride, Ethan would never be the first to say "I like you." Never admit how he felt. Sensing his own feelings, he panicked and tried to push me away, just to prove he could live without me. He enjoyed everything I did for him, but could not bring himself to give as much in return. He turned our love into a contest, and childishly believed that meant he had won. But all it bred was hurt and distance. I could not say like either, because in front of Ethan, I would always be the insecure and sensitive one. That was why I worked so hard to prove my worth. Neither of us willing to be the first to bow our heads. In the end, all that was left for us was mutual hurt. For a moment, my heart ached so much it felt like it might burst. But then something inside me finally let go. I stopped walking. "That's enough. Go home. Ciao ciao. Close your eyes." Before I could finish, I saw sheer panic flash across Ethan's face. He instinctively pulled me into his arms, covering my eyes with his hand. I heard a drunken man's voice, full of curses and rage. "You little bastard. How dare you threaten your mom not to give me money and try to kick me out? I'm your father. Giving me money is what you owe me. I'll beat you to death. You little wretch." Suddenly, I felt something warm and wet on my face. A strange, creeping terror spread from my chest to the tips of my fingers. Unable to see, my voice shook uncontrollably. "Ethan." Then I heard the heavy thud of someone hitting the ground. Then I felt Ethan's breath close to my ear, gentle and reassuring. "Don't be afraid." Just like long ago, someone stepped in front of a drunk's fist and pulled me along to escape. He was just a boy, voice cracking and full of bravado. "What's there to be afraid of? I'll help you fight back." That was the first time I learned how to resist. Ethan had to get stitches that day. He was tall, so most of the bricks landed on his back, not his head. When the drunk sobered up, he wept and wailed, saying it was a one-time mistake. But this time, nobody was willing to forgive him, not even my mom, who'd always believed he could change. When everyone assumed I would stay, I took out my itinerary and said goodbye. Ethan did not try to stop me. He simply transferred nearly half his shares to me. I know Grandpa gave you some too, but this is my apology, and also my thanks, Ethan said quietly. Han-hai will always have a place for you. I did not refuse the shares, but I did not reply to the second half of what he said. As I was leaving the hospital room, he called out to me, and for the first time, with utter seriousness, he said the words that had always come too late. I love you. I thought for a moment, then smiled. Maybe I don't love you that much anymore, or maybe, for a long time now, I've wanted to be myself even more than I wanted to be with you, to eat food that suits me, to do what I enjoy, to meet people who make me feel at ease. I know, Ethan smiled too, but his eyes were red with tears. His lips trembled as if he wanted to say more, but in the end he said nothing. As if all his strength had been drained away, he raised his hand, covered his eyes, and cried in silence. So in the end, I really did lose you, didn't I? No one answered. The day I left was a bright, beautiful day, and every day after that was, too. That's the end of today's story. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. We will keep updating with more exciting stories and look forward to meeting you again next time.